The young and the restless spoilers shock, a dangerous alliance. Mariah and Claire's plan. Mariah sat across from Claire in the dimly lit corner of crimson lights, their faces tense with the weight of their shared burden. The cafe's usual warmth felt distant, swallowed by the gravity of their conversation. Both women had come to realize that their lives were no longer safe, not with Ian Ward and Jordan lurking in the shadows, weaving webs of deceit and destruction. "We're targets," Mariah said bluntly, her hands gripping her coffee cup as though it were a lifeline. "Ian is unpredictable. He's already manipulated Tessa, and now I don't even know what she believes anymore. He'll come for me next, or worse, for Arya." Claire nodded, her expression guarded. She hadn't told Mariah everything, not yet. Just days ago, she had spotted Jordan near the edge of town, a sight that chilled her to her core. Jordan's mere presence was a threat, a reminder of the secrets Claire was desperate to bury. "We can't just sit back and wait for them to destroy our lives," Claire said, her voice trembling but resolute. "We need to face them. Find out what they want." Mariah frowned. "And then what? Ask them nicely to leave us alone?" "These people don't back down, Claire. They destroy everything they touch." Claire hesitated before responding, her tone darkening. "Then we don't give them the chance to hurt us. We take control. If that means poisoning them, then so be it." Mariah's eyes widened in shock. "You're talking about murder." "I'm talking about survival," Claire countered. "Do you think they'll stop if we just let them go? Ian Ward and Jordan won't rest until we're ruined, or worse." The moral divide, the tension between the two women was palpable. Claire's anger and fear fueled her desire for drastic action, while Mariah clung to her moral compass, refusing to let Ian and Jordan turn her into something she wasn't. "There has to be another way," Mariah insisted. "If we kill them, we become just like them." "I won't do it, Claire. I won't stoop to their level." "Then what's your plan?" Claire snapped. "Ian hasn't committed a crime, at least not one we can prove." "And Jordan? She's too smart to leave any evidence behind. If we can't use the law, what else is there?" Mariah's mind raced. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing: justice had to be served. Ian and Jordan couldn't continue to wreak havoc unchecked, but their downfall needed to be legitimate, airtight. Anything less would give them an opening to escape punishment, and she couldn't let that happen. A bold decision, meeting the enemy despite their differences. Mariah and Claire agreed on one thing: they needed answers. Together, they arranged a meeting with Ian Ward and Jordan. The plan was risky, but it was their best chance to confront their enemies and determine their next move. The meeting took place in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Genoa City, a neutral location that offered little comfort to either party. Mariah and Claire arrived first, their nerves on edge as they waited for their adversaries to show up. When Ian and Jordan finally arrived, the tension in the room was suffocating. Ian's smug grin and Jordan's icy glare set Mariah and Claire on edge, but they held their ground. "What do you want?" Mariah demanded, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "Why are you targeting us? What's your endgame?" Ian chuckled, his voice dripping with mockery. "Oh, Mariah, always so dramatic. This isn't personal, it's just business. You and Claire happen to be in the way of something much bigger." "Bigger?" Claire's voice wavered, but she stood firm. "What could possibly justify ruining our lives?" Jordan finally spoke, her tone cold and calculating. "You two are liabilities. Mariah, you're a constant thorn in Ian's side. And Claire, well, let's just say you know things you shouldn't. It's easier for everyone if you both simply disappear." Claire's hidden agenda. As the conversation continued, Claire's resolve hardened. She had slipped a small vial of poison into her pocket before the meeting, fully prepared to use it if the opportunity arose. She watched Ian and Jordan closely, waiting for the perfect moment to act. But Mariah, ever the moral anchor, sensed Claire's intentions. As Ian and Jordan's attention shifted to a heated exchange, Mariah whispered urgently, "Don't do it, Claire. We're better than this." Claire hesitated, her grip on the vial tightening. "I can't let them win, Mariah." "I won't." "We'll find another way," Mariah insisted. "But if you do this, there's no going back." A plan for justice. Mariah's plea resonated with Claire, and she reluctantly returned the vial to her pocket. Together, they devised a new plan on the spot, one that would require careful manipulation and a bit of risk. They would turn Ian and Jordan against each other. "Ian," Mariah said, her voice steady, "do you really trust Jordan? She's been keeping secrets from you. I've heard things that suggest she's working against you." Jordan's eyes narrowed. "Don't try to turn us against each other, Mariah. It won't work." But the seed of doubt had been planted. Over the next few days, Mariah and Claire began feeding Ian and Jordan misinformation, exploiting their egos and mistrust. They planted fake evidence, staged overheard conversations, and slowly drove a wedge between the two. The downfall. It didn't take long for Ian and Jordan's alliance to crumble. Their mutual suspicion boiled over during a heated confrontation, during which Ian accused Jordan of betrayal. The argument escalated, and in the chaos, Ian revealed details of his previous crimes, details that Mariah and Claire had secretly recorded. With the evidence in hand, Mariah and Claire turned the recordings over to Chance Chancellor. The police launched an investigation, uncovering Ian and Jordan's illicit activities and finally bringing them to justice. Closure. As Ian and Jordan were led away in handcuffs, Mariah and Claire stood side by side, watching as their enemies were finally brought down. "We did it," Claire said, her voice filled with relief. "Without poison." Mariah smiled faintly. "I told you, we don't need to become like them to win." The experience had tested their morals, their strength, and their resolve. But in the end, Mariah and Claire proved that justice could prevail, even in the darkest of times. A dangerous gamble, Mariah and Claire's bold plan. Mariah and Claire sat in the quiet, dimly lit living room of the Abbott estate, their voices barely above a whisper as they outlined their daring plan. The stakes were high, and they both knew failure wasn't an option. Ian, Ward and Jordan had wreaked enough havoc in their lives, and the only way to bring them down was to turn one against the other. But this wasn't just about justice, it was about survival. Sharon's life hung in the balance, and the clock was ticking. "Jordan is the key," Mariah said firmly, her jaw clenched. "She knows where Sharon is, and she knows everything about Ian. If we can get her to confess, we'll have the evidence we need to take Ian down." Claire nodded, her resolve hardening. "But how do we get her to talk? She's not exactly the type to cooperate willingly." Mariah's eyes darkened. "We make her talk." The plan. The idea was simple but dangerous. They would capture Jordan, isolate her, and use her fear of death to extract the truth. Mariah and Claire both knew Jordan's greatest weakness, her overwhelming fear of mortality. Despite her cunning and cruelty, Jordan's terror of death made her vulnerable. The plan had 3 phases. The capture: they would ambush Jordan when she was alone, ensuring she couldn't call for help or alert Ian. The interrogation: using her fear against her, they would pressure her to reveal Sharon's location and admit Ian's involvement in the abduction. The delivery: once they had her confession, they would record everything, turn her over to the police, and use the evidence to bring Ian to justice. The risk was enormous. If anything went wrong, they could end up in jail themselves, or worse, Ian might retaliate. The capture: Jordan was nothing if not careful, but even the most vigilant person had moments of vulnerability. Mariah and Claire observed her for days, noting her routines and looking for an opportunity to strike. Finally, they found their moment. Jordan often visited a secluded spot by the river late at night, away from prying eyes. The night of the operation, Mariah and Claire parked their car a short distance away and waited in the shadows. They wore dark clothes, their faces masked to avoid recognition. As Jordan stepped out of her car and walked toward the riverbank, they moved quickly. Mariah grabbed her from behind, while Claire held a cloth soaked in chloroform to her face. Jordan struggled, but the fight didn't last long. Within moments, she was unconscious. The interrogation: when Jordan regained consciousness, she was tied to a chair in an abandoned warehouse. The dim lighting and cold, echoing walls gave the space an ominous feel. Claire and Mariah stood before her, their expressions cold and unyielding. What is this?" Jordan stammered, her voice trembling. "Let me go." Mariah stepped forward, her voice icy. "You're not going anywhere until you tell us everything. Where is Sharon? And what's Ian's role in all of this?" Jordan's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape that didn't exist. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, trying to sound defiant. But the fear in her voice betrayed her. Claire stepped closer, holding up a vial of clear liquid. "This," she said, her voice dangerously calm. "This is poison. 1 drop, and it's over for you. Unless you start talking." Jordan's face turned pale. You wouldn't dare." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Try me." Mariah crossed her arms, playing the role of the rational one. "Listen, Jordan, you're not our target. Ian is. You give us what we need to take him down, and you walk away. But if you keep protecting him, we'll have no choice." Jordan's fear got the better of her. "You don't understand," she blurted. "Ian will kill me if I talk." Claire leaned in, her voice a whisper. "And what do you think we'll do if you don't?" The confession terrified and cornered, Jordan broke. She spilled everything: Ian's plan to abduct Sharon, the location of the hidden bunker where she was being held, and Ian's involvement in countless other crimes. Mariah and Claire recorded every word, ensuring there would be no way for Jordan to deny her confession later. "Sharon is in the old warehouse near the East Docks," Jordan admitted, tears streaming down her face. "Ian's been keeping her there, but he's planning to move her soon. He doesn't trust anyone, not even me." Mariah exchanged a glance with Claire. They had what they needed. Delivering justice after ensuring the confession was saved, Mariah and Claire called Chance Chancellor. They explained the situation, carefully omitting their role in abducting Jordan. When the police arrived, Mariah and Claire handed Jordan over, along with the recording of her confession. Chance listened to the evidence and nodded grimly. "This is enough to issue a warrant for Ian's arrest. We'll get Sharon out of there." "Make sure you do," Mariah said, her voice firm. "Because if anything happens to her," Chance held up a hand. "I promise. We'll bring her home." The rescue: following Jordan's confession, the police raided the warehouse and found Sharon locked in a small, filthy room. She was weak but alive, her relief palpable as she was carried out by the rescue team. Mariah was there to meet her, tears streaming down her face as she hugged Sharon tightly. "I thought I lost you," Mariah whispered. "You didn't," Sharon replied weakly. "You saved me." Ian's downfall: Ian Ward was arrested shortly after, thanks to the evidence provided by Jordan and the police's discovery of Sharon. Though he tried to deny everything, the mountain of evidence against him was undeniable. For the first time, Ian's reign of terror seemed to be over. Moving forward with Ian and Jordan both behind bars, Mariah and Claire could finally breathe a sigh of relief. But the ordeal had changed them. They had faced their darkest fears and made choices that tested their morals and their strength. "We did the right thing," Mariah said one evening as she and Claire reflected on their journey. "No matter how hard it was." Claire nodded. "And we proved that we're stronger together." Though their scars would take time to heal, they knew they had won, not just against Ian and Jordan, but against the darkness that had threatened to consume them.